I consider myself a lesbian.
I am a lesbian.
I consider myself to be a bisexual trans woman.
Oh, I'm gay.
Gay.
Queer as a sort of overarching sexual orientation.
I love the reclamation of the word queer.
There's an energy to it that I sort of admire.
I like that it means weird.
I like it because it's gender neutral.
Instead of using it against us, we use it to empower ourselves.
It's a Q word, so extra points in Scrabble.
We get to name ourselves. There's power in terminology. There's power in connecting with other people, and words give us something in common.
I had always assumed that I was straight, and I'd always assumed that straight was like the only option.
I remember the choir director at my church. At one point, my mom said, "Oh yeah, he's gay."
I had a very close friend. She considered herself bisexual.
What does that mean? Well, it means he's a man who likes men. And I remember like, that's an option?
Up till I was about 12, I didn't know that being gay was like a thing.
Life magazine did a big expose on homosexuality, but because it was like 1960, somewhere around there, the spin on the article was really, really negative, and there was even a little sidebar of how you can tell your child is gay. And one of the telltale signs was homosexual men loved, their favorite footwear was gym shoes. And so outside of gym class, I would not wear gym shoes.
I remember the gym class locker room being horrified that someone would find out, and also being intrigued by, oh, all these guys changing around me.
Like, I couldn't really identify with the male perspective.
But I also didn't feel like being a woman captured my full experience. Felt like the world was opening up and I could explore gender and play in the sandbox of gender.
In 8th grade, my mother had me put into a psych assessment where I was forced to come out as gay.
2 years ago, I had a student who found my wedding pictures on Facebook. And it was terrifying because I didn't know if I'd be able to keep my job.
Being gay is not a protected class.
When my mom and I had the coming out conversation, she didn't speak to me for 6 months.
I remember in college where people would write, dyke on my dry erase board.
It's a lot easier for me in this generation to come out.
She's very religious, and she said, I can either accept you or believe what it says in the Bible, and I have no choice. And it's like, wow, okay.
There's this thing that cis people do.
What she ended up saying is that it was a death. She said, you can't expect me to accept this on your time because I have to mourn who I thought you were.
Or they say that it's just that I'm grieving. I'm just grieving for the person that I thought I knew.
She said I had this image of who I thought my daughter was, of what I thought her life was.
Or my son, or my brother, or whatever.
I have to mourn who I thought you were before I can love who you really are.
But also, like, I'm not dead. There's a way that you could look at this such as you never really had a brother, you never really had a son because your son or your brother was miserable being a son or a brother. For some reason, you're sad that, like, your son's not gonna have a beard anymore, or he's not gonna wear as many ties.
I remember after the Orlando nightclub shooting, one of the quotes, and I'm going to do a horrible job of paraphrasing it, but it was an older lesbian who was writing a letter to younger GLBT people and just said, I'm sorry.
We're people.
We fought so that you wouldn't have to.
We're capable of fighting back.
We organized, we stood up, we know what it's like to be spit on, we know all of these things, and we were hoping you wouldn't have to give your lives to know this too.
And I think if I would change anything about the queer community, a lot of the younger gays have no sense of history.
I feel like a lot of us don't fully understand just how bad it was.
I'm thankful that a lot of younger gays don't know how hard we had to fight and don't have to know how dangerous it used to be.
I think it's their duty to educate us.
They need to have an appreciation of what came before them because that enables them to be who they are.
It's our duty to listen.
I think queer history should be taught.
We talk about disenfranchised rights and women's suffrage and all these other riots.
There should be books, there should be courses in school.
But yet in a classroom have I ever heard anything about an LGBT riot.
In that week, 3 things happened. I graduated from high school, Judy Garland died, in the Stonewall riots.
It really set the precedent for us as a community, as fighters.
I think the violence of it and just the sheer power of it is a good thing, because there are some times when talking just doesn't make your point.
Honestly, I think probably the biggest impetus for change will be when the first right is taken away.
The fact that we finally achieved marriage equality, and he hasn't even taken office, there's talk about getting rid of that, repealing that.
I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, I think people will be more motivated to unify.
I hate to think that we would have to resort to, violent demonstrations again, but I think that it may get down to that, because our very rights are being threatened.
When you're a part of a minority group, it's part of your identity. And when your identity is under attack, you have to fight to be who you are. And so Stonewall started that.
I think a lot of that attitude has been maintained today by today's generation.
I deserve the same rights, the same respect, the same life that you have.
All that evil needs to exist is for good people to do nothing.
So it may be time for another one.
When I started this film, I set out to explore the generational gap within the queer community. Through these interviews, I have found evidence of how far the queer community has come over the course of 50 years. I discovered the tools we need to continue the queer civil rights movement. We must unite in order to fight for the rights we have earned. The time for simply exploring is over. The time for action has come.